to talk about the altar at Bethel. This altar that Abraham had raised in Bethel. So after Jacob deceived his father, you know that story where his mother told him to deceive his father and get the birthright from Esau. So he deceives his father Isaac and he steals Esau's blessings. And his parents advise him, run away because we've heard Esau discussing with people that he wants to kill you as soon as I die. He said, as soon as my father dies, I will kill him. By that time, his father is over 100 years old. Because by this time, Esau had already married 2 Canaanite women. And we are told when he married them, he was 40. His father got the twins when he was 60. So he's now 100 years old when he's being tricked. So he advises him, just go away, run, because he thinks that he's probably going to die soon. As soon as I die, he's going to kill you. So now here is Jacob running away. And on his way there, he stopped at a particular place without knowing that it was Bethel. Okay? He stopped at Bethel, but he did not know that this Bethel is where his grandfather Abraham had built an altar. An altar will draw you. This altar drew Jacob to it. So let us now read Genesis chapter 28. And I'm going to read from verses 10, okay, about Jacob, to verse 17, okay? We are told Jacob left Beersheba, where Isaac was, and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he's thinking he's just him deciding, but it's the altar that's calling him. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep, not knowing he's at the altar. So what happens? He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth, on this altar, and he stopped reaching to heaven. And the angels of God ascending and descending on it. There was, here it is, this stairway was a door. The stairway is a portal. As soon as Abraham raised that altar in Bethel, it opened the way to heaven. So that now angels can come and minister at the altar. So we are seeing angels going up, descending, ascending, and coming down, descending. And then he tells us, there above it, above the stair, at the top of the stair, stood the Lord. That is the Lord. The Lord didn't come. That is where the Lord was standing all along. He was at the altar. So he comes, and then the Lord speaks to him. I'm the Lord your God, the Lord of your father Abraham, and I'm the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. At the altar, the Lord always has something to say. He always has a promise. He always has a covenant. Then it goes on in verse 15. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Okay? So now when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place. Okay? And the Lord was in that place because it was an altar. And I was not aware of it. You might even go to an altar and you're not aware of it. It will still affect you. It will still affect you. God will still meet you there. There are some people's homes where you find it's very easy to pray when I'm in this house. Whenever I go to visit this friend of mine, when we pray, we just seem to have open heavens immediately because an altar is there. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? How awesome is the altar? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. It is a portal of heaven. An altar is a gate of heaven. The altar of Jesus Christ is a gate of heaven. That is where God speaks to us. That is where the angelic hosts are. So now, early the next morning, Jacob took the stone that he had placed on his head, and he put up a pillar on it, and he poured oil on it. He just knew he needed to do something. I've seen Isaac, whenever God speaks to him, he does something. He slaughters something, but he had nothing to slaughter here. But if he did, he would have. And so he represented the blood with oil. So he raised an altar, and he called that place Bethel. How did he manage to call that place Bethel? He did not know. He said he was in a certain place. He did not know where it was. He just wondered where he was. So how is he calling the place by its name? He's giving it the name of Bethel because it is a spiritual place, and he is in the spirit right now. He calls a place the same place that his God, that his father had called it. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I'm taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God. And this altar, this stone that I've set up as a pillar, will be God's house. This is going to be a portal. Because remember, he said it is God's house. This is God's a stairway. It is God's a gate of heaven. So he says, yes, this will be a gate of heaven. It was already a gate of heaven. It's just that he did not know that it was. So now there is a double gate here in Bethel. Okay? So Jacob goes to his uncle, and he stays with his uncle Laban. And his uncle Laban mistreats him. And so he decides to live with his wives and his children from Padam Aram, where they were living. And then Jacob comes to Shechem. Remember, Abraham had already raised an altar in Shechem. So Jacob comes to Shechem, not knowing again that his grandfather Abraham had already set an altar there. So now let us read Genesis chapter 33. Okay? Genesis chapter 33. And I'm going to read from verses 18 to 20. We are told, after Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, and he camped within the site of the city. Again, when he gets to Shechem, something is holding him there. He can't move on. And then he says, for 100 pieces of silver, he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground, and right there he pitched his tent in Shechem. And then we are told that there he set up an altar, and he calls it El Elohe, okay, which means the God of Israel. So he sets up an altar there again. And once he sets up an altar, he calls on the name of the Lord.